What is home? Is it where you grow up? Is it where your friends are? What turns a place into home? I have always considered the Philippines as a second home. The air, the people, the food.
The story of the White Russians here in Tubabao is almost forgotten. Like nobody really understood the gravity or the value of what we did for the Russians. And in our side of the world, we were just forgetting. And it was amazing to me to see that on the other side of the world, they remembered and they celebrated it.
I fell in love with Filipino martial arts as a young man in USSR. I used to read copies of American martial arts magazines, not knowing just how much meaning FMA would give to my life. Through the years, I have tried to find as many connections as I could between Russia and the Philippines. After years of searching, I finally found what I was looking for when I chanced upon a documentary, researched and created in the Philippines. It was a story that tugged strongly at my heartstrings, one of hope, kindness, friendship, and love.
The movie is just a byproduct of the research. So I undertook the research. It's called the Tiempo Ruso Memory Project. I would hear the stories about the White Russians here in Tubabao. I call it the Tiempo Ruso. It's a Spanish word which means time of the Russians or the Russian period. So we have that Russian period from 1949 to 1951 until some of them stayed until 1953.
After 1953, most of the refugees have immigrated to the United States and some other countries, but those who could not emigrate, they stayed there on the island, and we don't have a lot of information about them. Probably they lived there until their death. They were mostly the old people, and they did not live long, I think. Especially most of them were ill, that's why they could not go.
The stay of the White Russians here, because there were 6,000 of them, and they were billeted in this island. Like they were kind of isolated, but then there was a bridge. So it was easy for them to just go to the mainland, to Giwan, to be with, the local people. And, the life of refugees is very difficult. And even now we have a problem about refugees. And one of the problems is, of course, money and livelihood. Because when you're in another country, you're a doctor, and sometimes you can't practice being a doctor because you're in another country. So you try to do whatever you can just to get by.
In fact, many of the refugees had problem with their health during their stay in the tropical climate. Many of them had tropical diseases. Some of them died from dengue and other diseases. It was a real feat for them to survive during these 3 years. Counting that they got used to live in beautiful conditions before. It was an elite of Russian society who immigrated from Russia. They used to live in palaces before, some of them at least. So about 6,000 Russian people came here, and they were settled in a small island in Tubabao, and they were not allowed to go outside this island. For them it was a real camp, but they thought that they would pass only several months there. In fact, they passed several years. and the conditions were absolutely not very kind for them. They got used to live in normal houses, but there they lived in jungles. They had to build huts, and etc., etc. And they had problem with electricity, water, etc.
So a lot of the Russians who were here were very good musicians, very good ballerinas, and opera singers, and artists, and actors, and dancers, folk dancers, pianists. And then what they did to earn income was that they taught the local children how to play the piano, opera, ballet even. And even my mother, she learned how to dance ballet from a Filipina, from a Giwananon, who learned from a Russian. And then, as for me, I learned piano when I was young from Manadoli. Manadoli is a Giwananon who got training from a Russian pianist who was a former refugee. So it was that musical culture, and of course ballet, that I suppose we inherited from our brothers and sisters from Russia.
Some of them even refused to live there, and they even rebelled. That's why some of them were extracted from that island. They really had problems. Also, they had problems with some Russians who were not of good behavior. Of course, the spiritual leader of them was St. John of Shanghai, but we cannot say that all of them were religious and so good Christians. But St. John, he played important part to make them better, to bring them closer to God. They built 3 churches there, even small convent, and the liturgies were served. St. John, he really saint by that time. He made a lot of miracles there, healings, and the most surprising miracle was that during all these 3 years, typhoons, which often come there every year, many typhoons come near that place. They did not damage the camp. Only in the last time when they already were to go, the last typhoon had some damages. That's why we pray now to St. John when we have a disaster of typhoon.
The one thing they keep telling me that the Filipinos gave them was friendship. Because coming from, they came from Russia, their families, they moved to China, and then from China, they had nowhere else to go, and the Philippines accepted them. But this was, on the national level, right? And then they came to Tobabaw. So they had this lifestyle that they considered tiring. Just moving around a lot, not being certain of their future. But one of the things that really made their stay here felt like home was that the local community welcomed them, like gave them friendship, and then even taught them how to drink tuba. Tuba is coconut wine. It's a local wine, traditional wine. And of course, one of them would say, my favorite is San Miguel beer. Because I think that's one of the things that Filipinos and Russians share in common. They drink a lot. They drink a lot. So there was a sharing of vodka and San Miguel beer, or the tuba, or the coconut wine.
Inspired by this tale of the cultural exchange between the two nations, I shared my findings with my close students and dreamed up ways to honor this shining moment. One way to start, we imagined, was to commemorate this event on the exact spot where it happened. One of my students, Anton, was able to connect us with the Russian Orthodox Church, first in Russia and then in the Philippines.
It is here in Giwan, particularly in Tubabo Island, where we started the link with the people of Russia. And I'm very, very happy now that the Embassy of Russia is always here with us every time we celebrate this offering flowers and commemorating this day of the Russians in Tubabo Island.
Предстательству христиан непостыдное ходатайство.
Сыну и Святому Духу, и ныне и присно, и во веки веков. Аминь. Пресвятая Троица, помилуй нас, Господи, очисти грехи наши, Владыка, прости беззаконие наши, святые посети, исцели немощи наши, имени Твоего ради. Господи, помилуй, Господи, помилуй.
The Lord have mercy. For the peace from above and the salvation of our souls, let us pray to the Lord. Lord have mercy. For the peace of the whole world, the good estate of the holy church of God, and the union of all, let us pray to the Lord. Lord have mercy. For this holy temple, and for them that with faith, reverence, and fear of God enter herein, let us pray to the Lord. Lord have mercy. This stone is blessed by the spring and all this holy water, unto the unshakable foundation of the temple constructed in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you for your prayers. So we ask God to send His guardian angel here to give abundant blessing to starting construction of church in the memory of our Russian people here and for benefits of all region, because in every you heard like we praying for always for authorities, for the people, for city, for country, that God give abundant mercy, prosperity in fruits and plants and all His abundant mercy and blessing for all of us. So in God's help, without God we can do nothing.
Always remember our history, and notwithstanding that some maybe of those Russians who settled there were good or bad, it's not us to judge them, but we remember their memory, and we want to make some monuments there, and especially because this story is connected with one of the greatest saints of the 20th century, the patron of the Philippines, as we call him, St. John of Shanghai. Our church decided to build there some chapel. It was already for a long time that we thought about it, but just recently we found some people who can help us in this. And that's why recently we established the fundamental stone there, hoping that we shall build some church there.
That event was a real, maybe humanitarian link between our nations. But I think it should be continued, because we have a good road, first of all, road to our future. And our future in our good relations.
I finally found the link I've been looking for, but this is just the beginning of my dream. I believe this story is one that should not be forgotten, and one day I will give this story the hallowed halls it deserves. A temple, a museum, on the same spot the Filipinos and Russians may gather and build on the friendship that was kindled many decades ago. So, what is home? Home is not where you are from. It's where you find light when all grows dark.